Welcome to another edition of the For the Love of Creatives podcast with your connections and community guys, Dwight and Maddox. And today we're joined by the lovely Lisa McKenna. Welcome to the show, Lisa.
Welcome, Lisa.
Oh, thanks, you guys. Thank you. And first and foremost, thank you so much for reaching out to me to be here. When I read what you guys are about and what's important to achieve in every broadcast that you do, I was just like, oh, this speaks to me. The finding your voice and community. Um, that was so incredibly important to me once, um, especially during the pandemic, is when I lost my community, I lost my voice, and that spun once I was feeling better and once we could get out in the world into who I am today, I think. And yeah, so I'm Gen X and approaching 60 in a couple months. But a little bit about me is I've been a graphic designer for about 30 plus years now. And that just defined my life. Like that was my vocation. That was the variety of different types of people I met. I didn't work with one lane of types of people. I had a business partnership in Boston for about 20 years. And I really enjoyed just meeting different types of people. Prior to all that, I went to art school, of course, for 5 years and always loved art. I remember when I was 4 years old, I live in Massachusetts. So when you live in Massachusetts, especially Metro Boston, your road trip is the Cape Cod, which is 2 hours away. We don't travel much. My husband laughs at me because he's from California and he and his family just drove like 16 hours to go to Utah or something. So it was just something that was so foreign to him. But anyway, we would go down to Cape Cod every summer. And I remember this so clearly. I was 4 years old. Um, and caricature artists were really popular. We were in Hyannis, walking up and down Main Street with all the candy stores and stuff. And there were like on the lawn, I remember this bank of caricature artists, and I just sat behind this gentleman drawing a family, and with such like overdone like faces and big mouths and big eyes. And just, I couldn't leave. I was so enamored by how, from what he was seeing and translating it to a different story for the family that they could take home. And I was understanding all this at such a young age. And I remember, and I haven't stopped since thinking, that's what I'm going to be. That's back then at 4, I wanted to be a caricature artist. Maybe at some point I will explore that and run off with the circus or the carnival. Um, but yeah, I think, just as I was talking, that storytelling has always been an important part of my life, and that spun into visual storytelling. And with graphic design, that's very important because you meet with a variety of different people and you take their story and you put it into some sort of commercial art, be it a logo or a brochure or something that they're about to sell or packaging. Um, and for me, and hopefully I'm not jumping around too much, but I'm equating this with storytelling and how important it is in my work is when I would meet with my graphic design clients, empathy was so important. It was like a lot of designers will ask business related questions, like who's your competitors, where is your compass going in the next 5 years? But for me, it was I would meet with clients and want to get them to figure out what makes them tick. Like what's their personal passion? And it's kind of like the banter we're doing right now. Like, just give me a small story about yourself. And then I would listen to those pauses in the conversation and fill it in. And then we would go towards a more business
Hmm.
conversation. And in thinking about today, I was like, wow, what is a thread that's been going through my almost 60 years? Well, I guess if you start at four, so that would be 56 years of
Okay.
artistic interest, um, is storytelling.
Mhm.
And it's something like I was thinking that with the collage I started during the pandemic, that I was just doing it for fun. And then I've been thinking like today, especially just thinking about the podcast, I'm like, no, like storytelling has been so important to me all these years, and taking stories and dissecting them and breaking them down and pulling out nuggets that are important in the manifestation of a successful piece. With my graphic design work, which I still do, um, those nuggets get translated into a variety of different designs. So it's just when I first meet with my clients, and I present the sketches after we've had our dialogue, they're like, and I always make sure they're like at least three different directions. They're not all the same direction, like where I change the color and it's the same design. And they're like, wow, I never expected that. You just took this like passion or my story and um, translated it in such an interesting way. Now, sometimes it doesn't hit the nail on the head. I'm not saying that, my work is so, wonderful that it wins awards all the time or not. But once I got into collage, I realized that I would see a photograph and be like, what is her story? And a lot of it is vintage photography that I work with in my work. And it's not just me pulling out a magazine image and just pasting it down because it's pretty. It's me like with any vintage image. And I don't know if it's because I've been in this uh, vocation, so to speak, for so long where I have to think about storytelling. But I'll look at a photograph and think, you know, women have a very strong presence in my work, vintage women. And
Mhm.
I always think, like, what was she doing that day?
Ooh,
Was
you
she
live the
comfortable?
story.
Yeah, like, was she comfortable in front of the camera? Um, what, and then the photographer's story, like, if he or she caught this person on camera in a candid, um, what caused them to click the shutter to capture them. So my style, like how I approach, is very slow, very slow until it clicks, and then it can come together because I'm so imaginative and just living in another world with my subjects.
Hmm.
And, I'll even be like, was she thinking about her laundry list that day? Or did she have to go to the store on the way home? Um, so yeah, I love, I love doing that and just looking at these images. And then when I was starting during the pandemic, I was enamored so much about like mid-century women from advertisements that were portrayed in these like submissive roles. And as beautiful as these ads and photography were, these submissive roles were really bumming me out. And I was like, I'm going to twist their stories and give them power in my work. So
Give them
early on, I
agency,
started
huh?
doing that. What's that?
Give them agency.
Give them, it's perfect. Yeah, that's perfect wording for it. And my early work especially started to notice that. And as I went along, I'm getting a little bit more abstract, but if you look even at my Instagram, it's like, okay, there's another woman, there's another vintage woman. What is she doing here? And sometimes they look really innocent, but for me, there's a lot of story under the surface. So, yeah.
I love how storytelling has been the central theme through everything you've done, but how it has manifested itself in different modalities. On in one area over here, you did logos and advertising things that literally did have their story wrapped up in that. It's just not a pretty logo,
Yeah.
and now with your collage, that is a visual storytelling as well. Um, it's really fascinating. I thought about this a moment ago. I'm gonna take a quick sidestep because this just feels like important to me. I'm not sure why. And we'll come back in just a moment, but I want to tell our listeners how we came to be because I think it's part of the story. So
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
don't remember where I got exposed to you, whether it was Instagram or Facebook. I don't remember. I just remember seeing I guess it was an ad for your newsletter, perhaps, and it's Rebel Art. Am I right?
Rebel Art Lab. Yeah.
Rebel Art Lab, and I read a little synopsis, and I thought, well, that's cool, and I signed up to be on your mailing list, and then forgot about it. And then one day I get an email from you and didn't put two and two together. I was like, I mean, you said your next birthday was 60, my next is 70, and I'm
Oh
I'm
my
a
goodness.
little forgetful now. And so I couldn't remember where that came from, but I'm that day your newsletter was the story about um, the visual
The
boards,
vision
the
board.
vision
Vision
boards.
board. Yeah.
And you called it the anti-vision board. No, what the heck is that? So I read the whole thing, and by the time I got to I've done vision boards throughout my life. By the time I got to the bottom, I was like, "Oh my God, this is brilliant! I need to meet this woman."
Oh,
And of course, I kind of figured the likelihood that I would get a response was probably small because we get bombarded with so much stuff.
I
But
can't believe you thought that.
I
Yeah.
wrote you an email, and of course I'm telling this for the listeners. I wrote her an email, and boom, she responded very, very quickly. And I said, I just think you're sitting on something that's amazing over there. Would you be interested in being in the podcast? And here we are. And I just kind of wanted our listeners to know that because how we come by our guests can be so organic. We don't, they just come
Mm.
from anywhere and everywhere.
That's right.
But it was meant to be because this is our second conversation. When we don't, for the listeners' knowledge, when we don't know somebody, we have a little meet and greet before we actually plan the episode so we can just get acquainted and get a little feel for each other and kind of make sure that it's all copacetic and a good fit. And it was. So here
Oh,
we are.
yeah. I think we went way over the time
We
that
were
we were
having so
we
much
were
fun.
slotted.
Yes, it was such a
It
good
was
Yeah.
such a
conversation.
great, that could have been a podcast on its own.
It absolutely could
Um,
have been.
I felt that particular issue and in your response was so like what my daughter would say, like it's so meta because in um that issue was if explaining if you are envisioning you want to be on a podcast, these are the steps to do it. I gave like three examples,
You did.
and I was like, this is so strange because you have like erased every single step that I need to do. and, and you just jumped over to like, my goal. But the that was my favorite one. And the title was Your Vision Board is Lying to You. And I released it New Year's Day week. Um, And the reason I did was I had unearthed this digital vision board I had done 3 years prior, so 2023. And it was like this big lie. And it was all these images of people I'm not. And it could be because I had grown to a different person at the same time, but I felt like it was so surfacey. They were just pretty things. They weren't telling me how to get there. And
It wasn't the essence stuff inside. It
no,
was all
no.
external stuff.
It
Mhm.
was all external. And it was like all these corporate women that were very strong, which I feel like that was back in the day during that time in 2023, that I was like, okay, yes, definitely. I am influenced by, you know, confident women, but it wasn't a thing like, okay, I want to be a politician. Like,
Yeah.
what are you trying to accomplish there? So what I wrote about in the anti-vision board was don't fill your vision board with the glossy things like like a beach house or you painting in lavender fields in Provence. It was more like, how do you get to that destination? Like your vision board should be filled with you getting to the destination. So
Yeah.
Which is the internal stuff.
the internal stuff
I mean,
and
you're
also the
describing the
little,
process of becoming, don't you think?
yes, exactly, which is another, part of
Alignment.
you guys.
Yes.
Well, and I'll drive the car for just a minute as what one of the things that spoke to and the thread that I got from the way that you talked about weaving in the story when or finding the narrative and being able to tell a story visually even when you were with commercial clients is something that I've been studying rather deeply lately. I've been reading a book called How to Live a Meaningful Life by Bill Burnett and Dave Evans of the Stanford Life Design. And we get hung up in things that are transactional. Like there's a transactional world that we live in, and that's kind of where that vision board, the things that were on it, those things that are at the surface, they're still very much steeped in that transactional world when we really need to
Yeah.
move over into that world of flow and of presence and
Yep.
of being able to really get familiar with who we are and be able to see things as they really are.
Hmm.
And you are uniquely positioned because you have a deeper visual vocabulary than most, and you're able to deal in that visual language. And so that's something that you bring to bear when you were looking at those mid-century photographs. There's much more going on than time travel when you were envisioning these rich narratives and asking what if and inhabiting what was happening there because you had the experience that made it so that it had much more depth and meaning and you could have something that you lived that was more than what the casual observer would see. It wasn't just
Wow.
a photo,
Yeah.
it was an experience for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow. That's so beautifully put. And I think also, like, as you were talking, I thought, starting as a designer very early, I would say in the 90s, it was important for me to walk in my clients' shoes as well. That connects to what I was talking about, like what jazzes you, but then also we need to walk in their clients' shoes.
Yes.
So, and I worked with a variety of brands and one of my first clients was Ugg boots, and it was literally their at the time, I think it was 93 when we were contracted by a PR agency, and UGG was one of their clients, and they were used for diabetics to keep their feet warm. And those early Uggs were like fire furnaces, like they were so hot because we got a pair in exchange for some of the work we did. But they had noticed that Pamela Anderson was wearing them on Baywatch in between takes. So they wanted to start tapping into that commercial market. So when I say like walking in someone's shoes, it's basically like, who is that, for this particular project was, who is that for future customer going to be? And what will it be like for them to wear these really, really ugly boots? Because that first
Yeah,
round of boots were so ugly,
they
and
were
it
ugly.
so ugly. And it was kind of fun because we were like, where is this company that is geared towards diabetics going to make that pivot to a high-end market? So it was super fun to and again, I go to like imaginary worlds, which is, how do we go beyond Pamela Anderson on the beach in her red one piece, to the civilian, the common person. And that's just one example of just how I think. It's not just, for graphic design, let's make it all glossy
It's
and pretty.
multi-layered.
Yeah, it is.
That
It's and
sets
I
you apart,
it oh,
in a big
thank you.
way.
It's resonance and relatability, and accessibility as well. Like just, oh, I get it. I get it. Um, and not so much with my collage work. Sometimes people will get like a feeling, but definitely my graphic design work, it needs to hit that nail on the head almost immediately, or just evoke a feeling, if anything. And that's, translating into my design work or my collage and fine art. It's just, evoking a feeling is so important. And I love that since I've gone into more of a fine art, digital art realm, it's so fascinating that you can have artwork that just gets interpreted by so many different people, and hearing like, oh, I saw that in your work. Is that what you meant? I'm like, no, but I love that point of view. And yeah, that's just, it's so fun. And I'm so like thankful in a way to the pandemic for shuttering my business. I lost all my clients. I had this old iPad, this dusty old iPad, and I'm like, I need to do something because I was just, feeling feelings I had never felt before. And I picked up the iPad, and it was really my, saving grace, and just started working on it, and joined Skillshare, learned how to make flowers and pandas and all sorts of things. I'm like, I'm not resonating with this at all. Um, and then I just saw such beautiful digital collages, and just thank God for Pinterest, because I was just looking up collage artists, and that felt like home. And I had done my senior thesis back in art school, 1989, on vintage signage. And back in I mean, you couldn't research like online or anything. So it was a lot of going to the library and taking photographs, and, going on road trips. And so I was thinking, this is a nice full circle for me, because vintage, affinity has always been with me in my heart. So, um, So I grew up with it because back then it was just doing a senior thesis on something pretty. But this now because I had the graphic design and storytelling in between, when I revisited it, um, and unrusted that muscle of fine art that I was doing in art school, um, it felt really good. And I'm so grateful in that way of with that 15 months of pure quarantine. We didn't leave. My son has a heart condition. I also have a disability. And we just really did a full-on lockdown. And it could have gone in a really bad direction for me because I had lost so much, from community to work. Um, and like I had said, just feeling these really weird emotions. And it saved me. So I have the pandemic to thank. I don't know if I would have ever said that while I was in the middle of it all. Um, but it did give me lots of space to explore this new medium that I ended up falling in love with. Yeah. So, and here I am.
Well, I
There
just
you
want to
are.
applaud you for being able to acknowledge the gifts that come from something that was probably quite painful at the
Oh,
time.
it
Mhm.
was. Yeah. And to not leave your house and what you have, like the center of your beliefs of community. um I just was missing that so much because I had a community. And that was probably one of the most painful things is, not even losing my business. It was just people, you know.
Yeah.
Having your family here can only go so far because everybody else is really down. So being the mom, it's the nucleus of making sure everybody's okay, not just health-wise, but just, emotionally. And it was a lot. My kids missed like a
That's a
year and a
lot to
half of
carry.
school. It was. It was. So, yeah, there was a lot of the pandemic I didn't like, but now that I'm 5 years away from it, or 6 years, I do have it to thank. Now, when I step back, I do have it to thank because if it wasn't in my life, I mean, I did get really ill. Um, I wouldn't have given myself the grace to explore something new. And it's really hard to believe, like, because of that, I found community on Twitter before it was X. So it was a really happy playground there. And I found a huge collage community that was just kind of like hidden gem of like 1,000 of us. So I rapidly built a community and so grateful during the course of the pandemic. And anytime there was a call for entries that showed up in the feed, I would just constantly be just, we have digital work. It's so easy to be like, hey, this is something I'm working on. Would you be interested? And that was the trajectory where I started getting noticed by smaller, galleries up to MoMA. I got selected as the 100 artists to watch in 2024, juried by MoMA and Christie's. And they're there along with some of the smaller galleries. They're all kind of the same for me. It's just knowing that I've done work that somebody was, feeling,
That's
resonating with.
that's quite an
Yeah,
honor.
it was. And had I not joined that community on Twitter, um, it's so weird to say now because Twitter is a hellhole. It's just not my place anymore, which bums me out. That had I not joined that community, I wouldn't have gotten the recognition that really, added to that trajectory and then filtered into starting Rebel Art Lab because I got some confidence that, okay, I'm onto something. I don't know what it is yet, but I want to give back. Yeah.
There's definitely a pattern of synchronicity and serendipity in our conversation today. I felt like it was very serendipitous that we met, and then you finding the community on Twitter, very serendipitous because of what it led to. Um, how does that, now that you've left Twitter, how are you maintaining that community? And is most of it virtual, or is there an element of what we call IRL in real life?
Yeah, I live in a town, it's called Marblehead in Massachusetts, and it's a very creative community. Um, so I've done some connections, I've done some smaller gallery shows here. It is very, it's already sort of established, so it's kind of hard to like kind of come in because it's such an old town. Um, I'm not saying all the people in it, but the town's been here since like Pilgrim times. And don't quote me on that, but it's definitely since the 1600s. And birthplace of the Navy, Washington did stuff around here. But um, so yeah, then there's IRL stuff, but we are moving to Cape Cod this summer for good. And the creative community is a different feel. We won't be far from Provincetown, which has this such an effervescent creative community. And Dennis is right on the elbow, so we are surrounded by just real people, like real creatives, people that are my age and above mostly. So that's really fun. And I can't wait to move down there. I think that's going to feel more like home than here. It's a beautiful town here, but I feel like I want to be in a place that is um, more diverse in how they approach their art, which I'm not getting here. Yeah.
Sounds like you're moving in the right direction to me.
I feel it, I love I talk about pivots a lot, but I feel like this is a huge pivot, not physically as well, but just again, I'm craving community again. And I, so when I go down, we're moving in with my dad, so we're doing an old-fashioned like three generation under one roof thing, which is gonna be like taking some used to. It's gonna be a little awkward at first. Um, but we're just ready,
That's a
that
lot of
this happened.
family.
That is a lot. It's just dad. Actually, I'll be the only girl. I'll be my son, my husband, our dog, and my dad. So
Well,
it'll be
when you get there, you just need to establish who's in charge.
guess who it will be. Because my husband's not blood related, although he and my dad are just the cutest things together. So it'll probably be me making sure everybody's eating well, love to cook. Um, and then over time, I could see us having parties and, with our new community. And
Yeah,
yeah,
that was where I was going to go next. I was going to ask you, have you ever considered perhaps hosting, well, maybe just one to try it on for size, but then if it works, then maybe a series of um, salons, and it could
oh,
be
I
with a
love
theme.
that.
It could be a salon for collage artists.
Yes.
Everybody and their dog is doing art classes, but I don't see that many people that are bringing people together to
Yeah.
talk about, the challenges of being an collage artist, or the
Yep.
challenges of just being an artist in general. And
Well, and you spoke to something a few minutes ago about how with the community that you're in being so established, it can be hard for someone from the outside to feel like they have an opening. And
Yes. Yeah.
I could see how you could be the catalyst for making it so that people realize that art isn't something that's for them over there. It's something that everyone can have an entry point into.
Yeah. Accessible art,
Hmm.
which
You
is
know,
also what I firmly believe in. Yeah.
throughout my life, when there was something I was seeking that I wanted to join, and I couldn't find the good fit, I couldn't find what I wanted to join, then I started something.
Hmm.
Throughout my
Yeah.
life, I've started things. I've started networking groups. I've started social groups. I've started all kinds of things because I figure, if it doesn't exist, then make it,
Yep.
create it.
I actually was kicking around that idea. There's a beautiful museum literally at the end of Dad's Street, sort of like the busy street. Um, there's a Cape Cod Museum of Art. It's like the big, hub of creativity there, and they have these beautiful rooms to teach art. And I thought, how fun would it be just to bring a stack of vintage magazines, which is that cabinet is just loaded with them, and nothing's precious to me. I probably have issues of things that are worth tons of money, but I don't bother. Like I have these Life magazines from the 30s, and I just am like, have at it. I want you to enjoy what I enjoy, and I would love to just have some sort of, salon, as you call it, um, where we just come and we, in a safe space, have some sort of storytelling and interpretation of maybe I'm really into monokus, which are like the baby version of a haiku. It's a one line Japanese poem and short, like, like a phrase at longest. And I would love to just bring a line or choose a line and let's break it down and make a story out of it. I taught an online class in storytelling using a mono that's a hard one to say, monoku. And it's a supplied one online, and it was about a bullfighter. And I have this technique, which is just to help people craft a collage out of it, which is the theme of this poem was his name was like Frederic the bullfighter had nightmares about a bull. It was along the lines of that. But my technique is let's break it into three columns: the who, the emotion, and the environment. So this one, I chose an easy one because we have the who, which is sort of a little background, like walk in the shoes of this person. It's not just bullfighter, but it's like you could think of him as a scared child or other stuff like that. And the emotion was like nightmares, negative was like negative stuff because he was haunted. So that was that column. And I encouraged them to come up with several words. And then environment was like Spain, the fighting ring. Um, he's wearing that beautiful costume that's all beaded. So, um, then you do like the crisscross and come up with the theme of, say, three words and then work on that. So that totally like cracks into my storytelling because it allows people that freedom to be like, oh, I can interpret the story this way with, I've crisscrossed everything through these three columns and I've opened up my head because, for a lot of people, it's hard to take that one line of poetry and be like, I don't know how to make art based on that. So it's, my other thing that's really important is accessibility and teaching methods to people that may not have thought that way before and be safe and come out of it being proud that they have learned something new. And something like that storytelling technique could be applied to other aspects of your life when you need to dissect something or dissect an emotion. Um, just put these three simple columns up and see what comes out. Yeah.
Pretty genius.
Yeah, it's amazing how freeing the constraints of a framework can be.
Yeah. And it's weird because there's constraints, right? But then what the result of is very freeing. And I taught that about a year ago through Drew Steinbrecher. He does collage summits, and they were pre-recorded lessons. And the response I got was so emotional and so touching. And I love just seeing how people would like translate something, and I would be like, I would have never thought of that. And gratitude that people actually were affected by it and actually went through the lessons. I mean, how many times do you buy a video course and you don't go through the lessons? I have to say, I've done it and just be like, oh,
Most of us
that's
have.
really interesting. And, I never go through the lessons. So to see people that went through it and were really like enamored by it and thanking me to learning something new really is moving. So that's um, sort of my mantra, which is to teach people different techniques using unconventional methods, software, thinking. And I have I've had this in the back of my mind for a while, but just creating art out of unconventional software, which is sort of a suite of courses that are in currently here. But I've been experimenting with Google Slides and creating digital collage in Google Slides. I'm like, I never knew you could actually craft something so beautiful in Google Slides. I mean, the thing that just, is known for Helvetica and bulleted list, and maybe if you're lucky, you can throw like a mountain background. Yeah, and it's teaching people to like push their medium to the limits, which is, I work in Adobe Express a lot, which is like I call it Canva's cousin, and I just push it as far as I can go, and the end result doesn't look like something that was built in these either free softwares or these weird softwares like, Keynote or Google Slides. And I didn't know you could put animation and video in there. So again,
Wow.
my method of bringing in women that don't have a voice and bringing in like vintage mid-century women from advertising. I was bringing them in and going crazy and drawing and on the slides and finding vintage video that I could slide into the presentation deck. And then you can output it beautifully to, the YouTube dimensions. So yeah, that's going to be somewhere on Lisa's horizon.
Well,
I'm just having too much fun experimenting right now.
I hope you bring it into being. And you called out something that I think we need to revisit when you were talking about the vision board lying to you. I think that it hits on a phenomenon where people get the satisfaction of feeling like they've done a thing just because they have said that they want to do it. And
Absolutely.
that's the
Yeah.
reason that we buy the video courses and we never go through them because there's some part of us that's checked the box and said, well, I got the course,
Yep. That's
but
so interesting. Yeah. Yeah. And then you
No,
you
there's
get it or you reach there and you're like, huh, that wasn't quite, quite it. Um, so I think oh, I'm sorry, Maddox, you were about to say something.
oh no, I'm good. I have actually three things that I want to talk about before we run out of time. Um, but I want to make sure you were
Oh my
through with
gosh,
what
we
you were
already
saying.
are. Yeah, I'll touch upon the vision board, the anti-vision board really quickly, which is vision boards are fine, but and you can have the destination, but the anti-vision board will be like, say for instance, you do want to do a retreat in Provence that's focused on painting, but you don't know how to paint. Like, why would you spend like $10,000 to do that if you don't know if you like to paint or you're shy or you hate to fly or something? Like it's just, if you're curious about plein air painting, maybe, start in the home, then go outside, paint in your park, do these little, I call them breadcrumbs, and that will lead you, like those little things should go on your vision board, the step by
Yes.
step by step,
You know,
rather than the picture of lavender with a little, colonial manor with, easels in front of it. That could be years. Um, so
what's coming up for me right now is listening to a fitness trainer one time asks somebody asked him what's a perfect exercise for me to do, and his response was, whatever you'll actually do. And that's what you're
it's so
describing
true.
with the vision board
Yeah.
here. You're suggesting that they put things on their anti-vision board that they will actually do.
Yep.
Pare it down and think smaller, in other words, because
Yep.
we've always been told to think big. And would you actually do that? Probably not.
No, no. No, I agree. And it was the same with the podcast. If you want to be on a podcast, and I think on my 5-year-old vision board, there was a podcast representation of a woman in front of a microphone. Okay, but if you were doing an anti-vision board, there are so many breadcrumbs that get you to that destination. And, you start out with interviewing yourself and maybe ask 5 friends to ask you a question, then you record it, do a voice memo and send it to them. Like little things like that that just get you, and then you find out who are the people that would be interested in your story. In this case, I didn't have to do that, and I'm very lucky. But it was just lovely to find out that what you believe in resonates with, everything that I believe in as well.
When you get there, perhaps the first salon that you could do is the anti-vision board salon.
Oh, I love that. Will you fly up for that?
You send us an invitation if we can make it
I
happen.
I
We'll do
totally
it.
will. Oh my
Oh
gosh,
my
that
God,
would
that
be
would be
so
amazing.
fun.
So there's a resource that I want to drop on you. You may already know about it. Um, it's a digital um, kind of like oh my gosh, brain fart. Um, when you buy photos, stock photos, it's kind of like a
Yeah.
stock photo site. It was started by a man and a wife who just saw a need. And so
Oh,
they created this thing, and it's all they research, and they go to old libraries, and they go to estate sales, and they go to places where they seek out the vintage and they scan them. And it's a whole, are you
know who
familiar
you're
with
talking
Century
about.
Library?
Yes. Is that
Oh,
Tom?
okay.
Chalky? Tom and I forget his wife's name,
I
but
think so.
it's called Century Library, I think is
Yes. And
his
it's
place.
all
And
vintage, and you just download them and print them in
yes,
collage
they
away.
do beautiful work. What I am such a fangirl of them is they not only do the, let's run to estate sales and, they don't just rip out images and scan them and call it a day. I've watched, I think they do Instagram ads where they go in and they're like pulling certain patterns out and repeating the pattern and it looks like a wallpaper and you can tell they love and they're passionate about what they do. I would love
Yes.
to like interview them at some point. But
Uh,
yeah,
Pretty
yeah.
fascinating. I stumbled across it somehow one day. So the other thing that was on my mind was I'm thinking we may have listeners that aren't 100% clear on what we're talking about here. So you talked about digital collage, and that's probably easier to understand in that it's all done electronically.
Hmm.
You're taking images and you're modifying in them and you're cutting parts of them off and you're doing whatever, you making them transparent and overlaying and all kinds of stuff
Yeah.
for digital. Is that accurate?
Yes. Yeah.
The other word you used term was analog collaging. And I'm assuming that means you're literally using real life magazines and tearing things and
Yeah.
paper and gluing. You're
Yeah.
literally collaging, which I love collage. I have not played with any digital. Mine is all analog. I just hadn't heard that term used for collaging. So I wasn't sure. And if I thought, well, okay, you're a collage artist, and if you don't understand, there may be others that don't understand. So I just wanted to clear that up so
Yeah.
they knew what you were talking about. You know, um, it's the best of both worlds.
It is. It is. And yeah, thank you for clarifying that because I think with the advancement of digital collage, we need to make that, differentiation. But the beauty is if I see something, say in a 1950s McCall's magazine, or I actually have a Sears 1960s Sears catalog. And so I'll just take a photo with my iPhone, which is perfect because the resolution I want the resolution to be sort of low quality. And yeah, so like I'm looking that's over here. This is my analog station, which is a disaster, a beautiful disaster, a beautiful mess, which is just piles of papers. And I love that. Um, and then I do when I'm, as I like to call it, pushing pixels and cutting pixels is I call myself a digital forager and I am like very versed in public domain imagery and where to source it and where to find it and what does it mean. And that's a product I'm working on right now, which is how to go about it, and then providing people with, I have about 150 sources, um, and providing people with how to find it. It's all about paying it forward. I'm such a huge, fan of that, and I think it's something that people might be needing right now.
So this is a course that you're working to launch?
Yeah, I'm working. Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out like, um, it's coming together. This is the first course I'm actually mapping out, but I think I was just like, oh, it'll be a PDF. But again, like people download PDFs and throw it in their downloads folder, and they never come back to it. So I'm going to do a video course as well, and like explaining it. And I think also people love seeing faces and like not just a person behind a dry PDF. Like, how do you do it? How did you craft that art with this piece of, this image that you found? And I can also weave in storytelling as well. Like, she was sad, let's do a sad collage or whatever it might end up being. Yeah.
I love that. So I just want to shout out for the listeners so they know there will be a link down in the show notes to take you to Lisa's website. You can find out more about Rebel Art Labs or
Lab.
Lab.
Yeah. Well, now
And
it's lab. Who knows? Maybe it'll be labs and I'll
yeah, yes. And
franchise.
but her website will show you what's currently available because we want this to be evergreen green and that will change over time, but we encourage you to check it out.
Thank you.
Lisa, have you got anything else that you would like to share with our listeners? Some wisdom bomb or something?
My thinking, and I was thinking, oh, this might just be for visual artists, but I think it's for any creative, which is um, I don't have a style. And I used to think that's a bad thing. That's a no-no. You have to have a style. You have to have, when someone sees that your particular piece of work, say, okay, that's a Lisa McKenna. Um, but it's okay to not have a style. It's okay to explore. And I think maybe that came from me finding my voice in my 50s. And it feels very like there's a bird called the bowerbird, and it just pulls any shiny object it can find and build its nest to, attract a wife. And I'm definitely shiny object. I'm definitely squirrel. I'm definitely, um, looking for the next. I'm not even looking for the next style. It just kind of comes to me. So, um, you know, it's yeah. If you're any type of creative, not having a style is okay.
Is okay. I love that
Yeah,
you're saying that because I think that when we start creating, we think we've got to determine our style, and it
yeah,
just doesn't really work that way.
yeah.
I think that we have to explore and experiment with anything and everything, anything we're drawn to. Shiny, shiny. Yes, what you're drawn to, follow that, and then there will be a point when you'll go, oh, but all of the things I've explored, this is my favorite, or these three are my
Yeah,
favorite, and it will
yeah.
emerge naturally. We don't have to figure it out. Just
Exactly.
hmm
Early on, I was, I'd do something and be like, oh my gosh, this doesn't look like me at all. And I'm not going to post it on Instagram. And I was just like, screw that. I'm just going to throw everything because that could influence somebody else. And maybe they're just starting out like, oh, this is part of exploring. That's okay. And I write about that in my newsletter every now and then that it's okay. If you have one, that's fine. If you don't have one, that's double fine.
I'm
Um,
I'm in multiple art groups on Facebook, and forever and a day, people are asking questions. Is it right or wrong to do this? And sometimes it's about the way they approach their art. Sometimes it's about the art
yeah.
itself, And I'm like, I'm always quick to say, there's not really any definitive rules. There's no right or wrong way. Just explore and figure it out.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
mean, there are some things that are in place. If you're wanting to have archivable work, then there's some rules you got to follow so your work actually is archivable or archival quality, will last a couple of 100 years.
Right.
Yeah.
But other than that, no, there's not really any rules. You can do anything you want to do. Mix
Yeah.
mediums that don't naturally go together and just see what happens.
Yeah. Hence, the name of my business, which is, rebel within your lane. If it's smaller and a little bit, you want to go tiny bit out of your comfort zone or big, um, go for it. It's a safe space. It's okay. And, exploration is what it's all about.
It is. Try
Mhm.
everything.
Try everything. Yep.
Yeah. Dwight, have you
My
got
next thing
anything
is,
you want to touch before we?
No, this has been a wonderful conversation,
oh my
and
gosh, this was
I,
great.
I'm so glad that you could join us.
Were-
Oh, thanks,
Lisa,
guys.
Lisa, were you about to say something else? I didn't want to cut you off.
Um, oh, I was just saying part of the shiny object is I got a bass guitar for Christmas, and it's always been my dream to do this like Gen X-y type of punk rock band. And yeah, I'm about to like go way out of my comfort zone and
Good for
try.
Good for
you.
you.
Yeah, but it's like what you were just saying, just like, you want to experiment, go. So, yeah. Maybe I'll come back on and play at some point.
Okay,
Yeah,
we'll
sounds
make
like a
that
plan to
happen.
me. Thank you so much.
Thanks, guys. This is great.